Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Precious metals in 2020, the year of accumulation. Let's explore. That's right. The year 2020 is now among us, and for many of us, when we think of that particular year, it makes us think about the future. And we are in the future right now. It's a lot different than what many of us had expected it to be in some ways, and in other ways, it is exactly what we would expect it to be. But make no mistake, there's one decade behind us and another one ahead of us. Depending on where you fall on that, we are either in the last year of the last decade or we are in the first year of the next decade. Regardless, there's a lot that's been happening, and some of it we never did expect, and there's a lot that hasn't happened that we thought would. But precious metals have pressed on, and I believe these metals here that you see before you, gold, silver, and platinum, I think will be, in many ways, sort of the star of the next year and maybe even the next few years. I'm leaving palladium out of this because it has performed very well over the last year or so, greatly increasing in price, and many feel that it is pretty much overvalued at this point. But make no mistake, the platinum group metals themselves have been performing sort of at their own pace, leaving platinum, though, out as being sort of undervalued. And I believe it's undervalued as well, which is why it is in this video, and I think that it could potentially rise in 2020. Silver, I also feel, is undervalued, and I think many analysts out there feel that there is potential that silver could increase in price over the next months, and it could happen whether or not the economy does well or not. And that is an interesting factor to consider, considering that silver is seen as an industrial metal as much, if not more so, than it does as a hedge against economic instability. Gold, I believe, will continue to press on and go up in price this year because of the fact that it is money and it is the most stable of the precious metals out there in terms of preservation of wealth. I believe 2020 will be a good year for the metals, but maybe not so good for those of us who want to accumulate them. You know, selfishly, we often look at these metals and we say, well, we want the price to go down so that we can continue to accumulate more. And I'm of that mode. But I would encourage you, all of you out there who are planning to continue to accumulate, and notice I'm saying accumulate rather than stack, because you can acquire these metals depending on what your purpose could be. Mine is more so as a collector than a stacker. However, one of the side benefits of collecting is as you do so, you end up stacking too. And collecting precious metal pieces in the form of coins, rounds, and bars can take various different forms. I mean, you can collect bullion releases because there's so much of it out there with different designs that you pay a nominal premium over the spot price of the metal contained therein. But make no mistake, in this new year, I believe it is important for all of us to continue to accumulate, really no matter the price. Because when your dollar cost average and when you think about the potential that these metals have in preservation of wealth, we do live in uncertain times for sure. There is a threat of the Federal Reserve here in the United States continuing to print dollars, whether for short-term bonds or long-term bonds. And whether you call it the repo, the repurchase agreements, the repocalypse they call it, or quantitative easing 4, make no mistake, every time they do that, even beyond the targeted inflation rate of 2% per year, there is also the concern of hyperinflation that could come. And, the economy is good right now here on the first day of January in the new year 2020. That is undeniable. And really, we would be fools to want it to be anything else other than a good economy. We want things to be great for all Americans and for everybody around the world, too. And but the thing is we must prepare. And we must prepare for the possibility that the dollar could lose value, more so than the targeted 2% per year. And even as such, this is why we accumulate precious metals, to protect ourselves financially. Now, it goes without saying, people say, you stack silver and gold, but it doesn't matter unless you have brass or lead. And that is true. I think preparing in all aspects, not only for self-defense, be smart about how you store your precious metals, find various locations that make it very hard to find or track, outside of your home. I think that's crucially important. Have a, security in your home, not only in terms of an alarm system, cameras and the like, but also with the proper firepower to protect it in case you are home in the event of a robbery attempt. But also in preparations for other events as well, obviously. Food, water, other preparations that are out there. In many ways that goes without saying, but it's certainly smart to do so. Have a lot of necessary items on hand in case of an emergency. That also includes, and I believe it's important to accumulate in 2020, not only those preparations that would protect you in the case of a crisis of any sort, whether or not it's related to economic or some sort of emergency that could natural disaster, that type of thing. But also to have actual cash money. That's right. These Federal Reserve notes, have those literally on hand in your possession, but also have some in the bank if you need it for an emergency expense. Those are inevitable. They're bound to happen. I know I've seen them in my life. And 2019, I was very blessed to not have much emergency or extra expenditures out there. But you never know what could occur. And so that's why 2020 is the year of accumulation, whether or not be because of the whatever could come, but to have not just the gold, silver, and platinum preparations, but also those other materials that I talked about. Now, I am bullish for all three of these metals, gold, silver, and platinum, going into 2020 at some level. And, we're used to the prices being lower as we have accumulated over the years. And some people say, well, is this the time to accumulate, or should we hold off and wait? It just depends on your instinct and on what you're reading. I'm going to be posting many videos, I'm sure, about the price predictions and what's moving the prices of precious metals. I think it's fascinating to see what factors drive the prices. So there will be obviously more videos about that. But really what it all comes down to is you make your own decisions and what you're most comfortable with in purchasing these precious metals. It is the year of accumulation, but even more importantly, it is going to be the year of fiscal responsibility, and I believe we should all make it an effort to pay down our debts as much as possible. But notwithstanding, obviously, we need to, in part, save as we go along through that process. The two biggest debts that we will hold typically, an average American or maybe even European, are going to be a mortgage and an auto payment. That's right, your vehicle payment. But those are things of necessity. If you want to earn equity and accumulate ownership of those things, you are going to have a payment. You're going to have to go into debt to get those, because most of us can't afford to pay cash outright for either of those two things. So, but live smart. Pay down those debts and pay extra per month towards the principal of those loans. And I think you will feel much better as well as you start to and continue to accumulate gold, silver, and platinum. Now, how much of each metal should you accumulate? Well, it's whatever you feel comfortable doing. Most of us in this community are silver stackers and silver accumulators first and foremost. It is the easiest to purchase at various different sizes, between 1 and 2 plus ounces, typically find, and of course the higher the weight, typically the lower the premium. That's not always the case as of late. You've been finding some very good deals on 1 ounce pieces, but typically we should avoid buying fractional silver, especially. You're going to pay very high premium for those. As for gold, gold seems almost unattainable, especially in the 1 ounce size for many people. It takes a lot of discipline to save up for 1 ounce of gold. And as the price continues to increase, and I believe it will through 2020, it's going to be even tougher to buy. And many times you're going to pay probably close to $100 in a premium to buy a bullion gold coin in some cases. So look for the specials that are and the deals that are out there, and especially if you buy fractional bullion, in gold, you're going to pay even more per ounce for those. So be patient and be cautious. Find ways to save, whether it be through credit card points, eBay bucks, or what have you. There are ways to find gold at a cheaper price. For me, I'm as a collector and accumulator in that regard. To me, it's not quite as much of a luxury to find those if there's a particular coin that I want in gold or what have you. But I'm going to try to be smart this year if I can, purchasing gold especially. And then for platinum. Platinum is what I call a fringe precious metal in that it has mostly industrial purposes and actually more specifically, especially as a catalyst. So with platinum, be very mindful that it's going to be very volatile, but I do believe it's undervalued now. But it holds because of its factors as a commodity in that regard. It's going to be very volatile, I believe. So it's riskier to purchase platinum, and by no means should it be the fundamental or core of any stack. I've heard several in the community who have bought multiple ounces of platinum at a time, and that's a risky venture that may or may not pay off. For some it has, and I applaud them. But make no mistake, the prices could drop on platinum or silver or gold, by the way, too. Really, all three metals have the potential to go either way, even though I'm relatively bullish on all three metals for the coming year. It may not occur. I don't put stock in anything I say in any prediction I have because I'd rather them be lower. But you could buy any of these metals and they could just literally tank. It's happened before, and if it does, hold on, because in the long run they are going to do what they have always done, and that is preserve your wealth on average throughout a long period of time. That's what they do. It's not something you get into and expecting quick results or quick returns, even though you may see it on paper one way or the other. Do not get overly excited and do not get overly depressed when the prices go down. So there you have it. 2020, the year of accumulation, not only of these three metals and to whatever you feel comfortable or necessary for your specific situation, but also other ways to prepare in the case of what could come in terms of an economic situation such as a recession or a natural disaster or what have you. Be prepared. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching, wishing you all a very happy and prosperous and healthy 2020, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.